Hello, all you hardcores out there. How are you doing? It's Russ here from Poker's Corner, the biggest gob in sport. We say the things on here that nobody dares say. Today I'm joined by Jerry from Northern Ireland. How are you doing, Jerry?
I'm all right, Russ.
Are you
Look, are you copying me? Are you copying me or something?
copying you with what?
I've got my dressing gown on as well, mate.
Yeah, I think I'll put the old dressing gown on, mate. You know, it's dressing gown weather, isn't it?
Yeah, I never used to have one, but Santa got me one for Christmas,
So,
and yeah, it's pretty handy.
good man. Good man. How you been keeping, Jerry? All right? I haven't spoke to you for a week or so. You all right?
I'm all right, just very tired today, but feeling a little bit burnt out after all the madness at the weekend. You
Hmm.
know how it is.
Yeah. Uh, this fight at the week, I only really want to talk about one fight on the show because it's only really one worth talking about in there. Could you explain a little bit about the rivalry between one part of Ireland and the other without me saying anything too political because people get so revved up about it. Could you explain a little bit of where these two lads were from, what they're called, and the actual vibe around the fight, if you could, please.
Of course, absolutely,
Before I get Kent on this week, and he'll give me his version. But go on, let me.
no problem. Actually, I would love to hear Kent's version of it as well. Um, but yeah, absolutely. So basically, everyone knows Northern Ireland is part of the UK, and that's where Lewis Crocker's from. And he's from Belfast, the same as myself.
Yeah,
Um, and Paddy Donovan is from Limerick, which is a lovely place in the Republic of Ireland. Um, and uh, the whole of the island is obviously known as Ireland, but it's basically split into two, as I said, and the Republic of Ireland is a separate country. So, despite various athletes from Northern Ireland sometimes competing for the Republic, because in Northern Ireland you can choose whether you want to represent Great Britain or if you want to represent the Republic of Ireland,
yeah,
and everybody is free to do so. But you know, it's obviously up to the athlete. I actually think Carl Frampton has represented Ireland in the amateurs. I could be wrong, but either way, it's up to it's the choice of the athlete to do choose whatever. But obviously, when it comes to a fighter from the Republic of Ireland and a fighter from Northern Ireland, um, there's obviously been history over the years. Um, People know the troubles, obviously, which is obviously turbulent, violent part of history on the island.
yeah.
Um, so that creates, whether you want it to be there or not, that creates a little bit of rivalry, right? And the likes of myself, obviously, this is sport. This isn't um, something that's supposed to be looked at in anger or anybody used as a politicized sort of weapon. But unfortunately, without a shadow of a doubt, there is going to be that element under the whole fight simply because one guy's from the Republic and one guy's from Northern Ireland. So um, I'll jump to the end quickly just because I actually heard this after, but I never read any reports. But I believe there was actually scuffles and some fights after the fight,
Yeah,
and I can only tell you now that those would have been caused due to this kind of tension that still exists, really,
yeah,
between North and South. But it probably was likely that some of those fans that scuffled were actually from Belfast too, but they probably were from the other side of, they probably were from both, either side of the community because there still is a divide, even though Northern Ireland's a much more peaceful place nowadays. And, everybody mixes every day and things are a lot better, etc. But there was, without a shadow of a doubt, there was going to be a little bit of, or maybe a big bit of undercurrent that sort of had that rivalry between North and South.
If you remember a few weeks ago, Kent came on here and he had a football top on. I forget which one it were because he's got that many. And I said to Kent, "Oh, haven't you got any? I was trying to think of an island football top. The
Yeah.
only thing I could think of was something I saw about Roy Keane, and I said, and you got a cork top because I don't know any teams in Ireland because they're not in Premier League, are they? And
No, no, no.
Kent said, Cork, that's a different country or something. So I don't know if that were an insult or something to Kent with being a Northern Ireland block. I don't know. I mean, to me, when I look on an island on a map, it's just one country in it. To me, it's just like, like to left hand side of England, it's one country. Obviously, we've got Scotland, England, and Wales stuck to ours, and there's your island. I've never really delved much into it because I'm probably ignorant, but it's there's a bit of intense beef there by it sounds of it. It's quite political, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll tell you someone who his knowledge has impressed me. So big shout out to Terry.
Yeah,
Terry told you once he studied Irish history. So
yeah,
if you ever fancy a long conversation over a nice cold drink
yeah,
or whatever, sit and ask Terry about it. He's got a lot of information about it.
yeah. Well, I'm just an ignorant Yorkshireman. I don't really understand it well. I try not to get too political. So if I offended anybody in whichever part of Ireland, I don't even know what I'm talking about now, by saying, "Oh, you got a cork top, Kent." I mean, I could hardly say you haven't got a Donny Rovers top, have you, Kent? Because Donny Rovers are in South Yorkshire, not Ireland. So, but Kent were obviously collects football tops from all around the world, doesn't he, or wherever. And I was just basically saying that you got a Cork. I didn't know any teams over there, but I know Roy Keane used to play in Cork, didn't he? Also, anyway, it's about
Cork City played for
in it about 300 miles from Kent's house or something, Cork.
260 odd. But the point is,
Yeah.
uh, perhaps he did get offended. You'd need to ask him. But
Mm.
I think the top that he was wearing was from a team from a different country anyway. So
Oh,
I don't really know why it matters.
Kent, I didn't mean to offend you. I don't understand all that politics. I mean, why can't you all get on anyways? Why don't you all get on? I mean, where's Barry McGuigan from in Ireland? Is he from the south?
Yeah, technically he's from the south, but he's not far from Northern Ireland. And
Okay.
he chose, he actually chose to represent Northern Ireland more as a bridge between both sides of
Well, isn't that a
Ireland.
good? Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, and the thing about that, Russ, is he did that when things were a lot worse
Yeah.
and the troubles were in full swing. So yeah, that was a good thing. You know, Brian McGuigan was taken up to places where he shouldn't have been for small fights in his career, and nobody messed with him or messed with his team and had total respect for him because he had that much integrity and respect. So it just it was a big thing what that Brian McGuigan did.
Yeah, and I admire that. I know he gets a bit of stick in that for the Carl Frampton situation. Obviously, that's Kent's pal, but I kind of admire Barry McGuigan that. And when I was pushing for Carl Frotcher's MBE, he gave me a letter, Barry McGuigan, and backed it, along with a few other people in media and boxing. So I ain't got no beef with him. I'm not interested in his financial situation with Frampton and all that. That's their business, isn't it? But I give him respect. But yeah, for doing that and other things, and obviously he could fight the guy, couldn't he? Although his career ended rather shortly, didn't it, at 28, but he could fight. But you've got to give him respect for putting his neck on line in them troubles in '80s, haven't you?
Yeah, he was a big celebrity. Did you
Oh
not
yeah,
tell me you had a poster of him on your wall?
yeah. I had the Barry McGuigan. He was in an Adidas cagoule, and it were corner of my bedroom. It was Barry McGuigan, 1985. It was featherweight, super featherweight champion of the world. And he had the added Adidas cagoule on that I went mad for. And yeah, and I didn't get to eat a bag of these, but he had his own bag of crisps out, and they were a bit
Crisps.
like Watsits, weren't they? Do you remember them?
Yeah, yeah, just about. But I remember
Mm,
those adverts being on TV years
yeah,
ago.
yeah. And you see, in them days, it wasn't like today. Now, if you were famous then, you were famous.
Yeah,
Now you won't get Nick Ball or somebody like that on posters like that. You know, on poster racks in town, you go to be Rocky, Lamborghini Countach, that Lamborghini Porsche 959, and a Ferrari 308 or Ferrari Testarossa. There'd be Rocky ones, and then there'd be Barry McGuigan and Samantha Fox and Madonna and all that. And you go through poster racks, they were £2.50. And I'm gonna have a Barry McGuigan one and a Rocky one and Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche one. You know that kind of thing.
yeah,
There's none of that nowadays. You know what I mean? You're famous now for being famous. You're famous now for just chatting a load of nonsense. But back then, you were famous. You know, like Rod Stewart. Somebody like Rod Stewart would be famous, money or Barry
proper famous,
McGuigan.
man. Proper
Yeah, proper
famous.
famous. You know, and but anyway, okay. So the fight, Donovan against Crocker. What do you think of it all and the actual mess that were made of it by the referee? I'm just asking your opinion. You might not agree with me, but I'm not trying to put words in your mouth like some people say. Just let me know your opinion because my channel's about letting everybody have a voice who comes on. So what did you think, Jerry?
Well, first of all, the atmosphere was
Let me just get a quick drink.
excellent.
I'll keep talking. Go on.
The atmosphere was excellent. I was sitting at home really looking forward to the whole fight because there'd been a bit of build up during the week, and there was, like I've already mentioned at the start of the video, the intense kind of rivalry that sort of, they were using that to sort of hype things up a bit, and rightly so. Doesn't always have to be negative when you use, North versus South type scenario. And in this case, it very much was. And, I was talking about it all week with people I know. So, you know, I'm sure I wasn't the only one. So naturally, when the fight began and the bell rang, you were just waiting for it to kick off. And it sort of progressed in a way that I thought was sort of slightly strange because Crocker came out sort of leaning forward and he just had the gloves up. And I thought that was unusual. And I was kind of going, is this a feeling out sort of period or what is he doing? It, don't know. I hadn't seen him doing that. If I've forgotten, I haven't remembered if he's done that before in previous fights. And I have seen him fight before, but I couldn't remember him ever doing that before. But I thought that was a bit unusual. Donovan then was basically looking away around his guard, but the way that sort of Crocker was sort of moving forward and it had those gloves up, sort of led both fighters to kind of lean in, and basically they were head to head like for quite a period of time, and then basically what happened in the first round was Donovan basically had to start fighting ways around the guard of Crocker, but very little was coming back from Crocker. Similar sort of thing happened in the second round, but towards the end of it, if I remember right, Crocker got a couple of heavy blows in, but I noticed he was missing with a few as well. Basically, it kind of went on. Similar sort of story then for the next couple of rounds. Only Paddy Donovan was suddenly finding, he was obviously getting his punches through, finding gaps, and they were sort of starting to have an impact. But you could sort of, well, I didn't see any intentional headbutts from either fighter, but there was definitely some sort of head clashes going on there. Initially, uh, Donovan received a warning then for use of the head from Marcus McDonald. And I didn't really think too much of it at the time, but I thought, okay, well, there's both close head contact going on here. Perhaps Crocker is going to get something similar if this continues. So kind of continued on a bit more. At this stage, Crocker is cut. I can't remember what round he got cut in, if it was the sixth or not. All the excitement has made things a bit mad for me in my head. But he got cut anyway, Crocker, and it was ruled by punches. And then I think he received another cut at another point. But this basically led us towards the last couple of rounds. And by this stage, Donovan was dominating, and he was causing enough damage to Crocker's face that I believe his vision was starting to get hindered. And he sort of resembled like a wounded animal at one point when he was trying to swing these big sort of kind of almost like roundhouse kind of, swinging shots, and they were missing. He connected a couple of times, but I mean, scoring the fight as it was going along, I had Donovan winning every round. If I had to give a round at all to Crocker, it may have been the second, but I think it was fair to say Donovan was winning every round. I mean, not the only person who thought that, but this led us to round 8, where again there was obviously another warning for use of the head that was given to Donovan. By this stage, it seemed as though the referee was definitely a little bit, or you could say quite a bit, biased towards Donovan. So you're 2 points down. I felt like Donovan really stepped on the gas then. So he actually scored a knockout and it dropped Crocker, which, couldn't believe it. Very, very exciting stuff. Given that many people were predicting Crocker for knockout. And Crocker's camp had mocked the Donovan camp for having power, which just goes to show you that he obviously does have, if not, say, one punch power, a cumulative kind of power, and he was able to obviously achieve a bit by racking up the points. So down goes Crocker. Again, same sort of pattern continues. There was an elbow apparently thrown that I totally missed, but I don't believe Donovan got a warning for that. And I'm not sure which round it was in, but there was an elbow thrown at one point in the fight. I haven't rewatched it since to see when it was. But basically, we get to the end of round 8, and the fighting carries on after the bell, and Donovan obviously does he hit him twice or once? Either way, he lands after the bell, and he drops Crocker again. To me, it looked like as soon as I heard the bell go and Donovan land, I just turned around to my fiance and said, they're going to DQ him. And about 30 seconds later, 40 seconds later, that's what happened. But naturally, obviously, when Crocker received the blows after the bell, to me, it looked like he knew exactly what was going on. And, he threw himself to the floor. I thought, I don't see why he was up against the ropes. I don't see why he had to sort of just fall like a sack of potatoes on the floor. But either way, I'm sure he was hurt because the eye was bad at this point. But basically, Marcus McDonnell rules the fight as a disqualification for favor of Crocker, which, even though I'd said it was going to happen, I couldn't actually believe it because such a dominant performance from one guy the whole night, to be kind of handed to another guy who was absolutely outclassed. I think it exposed Crocker's dimensions. Basically, there was only one dimension on show. So I was very disappointed at the decision, and I can't help feeling that something else could have been done from the referee to allow Crocker to continue from obviously the punches landed after the bell, and for a proper decision to be decided upon. Everything happened so quickly that you kind of had the impression that the referee was just sick of Donovan and had had enough.
He was back chatting the referee though throughout the fight. Donovan won it, and his corner were giving McDonald a bit of stick. So, do you think that the referee, rather than looking at actions, were taking it personally? What things were coming at him from Donovan, the attitude, which you're going to have an attitude. He's in a firefight, isn't he? And things that were said from the corner. Do you think that had an effect on Marcus McDonald? And he thought, well, I'm going to show you who's boss here.
Yeah, I think Canada Bob last night on your channel described it absolutely perfectly. He was emotionally invested. It was.
Yeah, I agree with Bob on that. I agree with Bob on that. Yeah.
Some of that stuff perhaps went over my head at the time, but if he was receiving sort of back chat and stick or whatever, to be fair though, I can see why the corner were doing that, because even Tony the Bell End said at the end of the fight, it seemed as though the referee had an agenda against Donovan. I mean, if he said it, it wasn't just as blatant to myself as it was, must have been blatant to other people watching as well. So maybe that's obviously irritated Marcus McDonald, and he's let his emotions get the better of him, and that's obviously come out in the way he behaved and how he decided to make a decision in.
Well, let me tell you this about Marcus McDonald. I've met him many times, and he certainly didn't get irritated when he used to put his expense sheets into Fight Academy, Big Ron's company, for his petrol allowances to get 45p a mile. You weren't irritated then, were you, Marcus, or frightened to put them sheets in? But no, this look, we can go around the houses and go around it in circles and circles and circles and try and fathom out what's gone on. But these people, these referees and judges, they are not going to come out and do an interview and explain why they made these cock-ups. They threw Ian John Lewis, sorry. They threw him to Wolves, didn't they, over Josh Taylor Cattrall?
Yeah.
He got thrown to Wolves. So why have we got no consistency? We've got Steve Gray. We remember him, don't we? He's Team Queensbury, Steve Gray. He's an A-star referee. He did skeet against Shiraz. Do we agree, Jerry?
Yeah.
Then we've got Marcus McDonald doing Donovan against Crocker. Same carry-on, but totally different outcomes. Why is there no consistency from these A-star referees? I'll tell you why. Because they go with the home cooking. Crocker is the ticket seller, and he's an Eddie Hills fighter. Shiraz was a Queensbury fighter. So they go with Bricktop. That's what they do. These A-stars, they know who to keep happy. Do you know what I mean? It didn't matter if Skeet won, he's no good to Bricktop. See where I'm coming from? If Donovan won, he's no good to Eddie Hills, because they're trying to make boots Ennis against Crocker. Crocker's got the win by default, so they're still going to throw him in there. But Eddie's not bothered. He's got a plan B. The Donovan fight is still always going to be there, because all you Irish are going to be going to Windsor Park. You're going to want to buy a ticket, aren't you? Because they're going to big it up now for the next 6-9 months. While Eagle goes and gets filled in by Boots Ennis. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Everything falls on the laps of these promoters. And when's it gonna? When are boxing fans going to stand up to this and say, "Do you know what? This ain't right. This ain't right. That kid Donovan's got a loss on his record that he shouldn't have had. That referee, what he should have done was check the fighter were all right, Take a time out. You didn't have to give him 5 minutes. Take that minute out to see if he were all right. And if he won't, then he could give him a few more minutes. And then they can go again, because you don't know if that Donovan's heard that bell. We've seen it many, many times. It wasn't done. He got emotionally invested, that referee, and he wanted to show authority. That night is about Marcus McDonald. It's not about him. It's about the fighters. It's like I always kick off on here. I don't want to see trainers doing interview after interview after interview. I'm fed up of seeing it. Billy Nelson doing interview time and time and time again, constantly talking about what? Bacoli, right? I don't even like to see Peter Fury doing interviews all the time. Talking about what? About reactions to reactions. Let's see interviews with Huey and Savannah. See where I'm coming from? I'm not digging Peter out. Interviews about what? About what's gone on the previous week. What is all that? It's about the fighters. It's about the fighters. Let's have it right. I don't want to see Shane McGuigan doing interview after interview after interview. See, I want to see his fighters doing interviews. You see where I'm coming from?
Of course.
I don't want to see Flex doing interview after interview after interview every other week because he's getting a free car through that BYD thing through Boxing King Media. I want to see his fighters doing interviews, but he ain't got no fighters hardly. It's not about the trainers. It's about the fighters. And we're not seeing enough fighters doing interviews. Do you see where I'm coming from? We don't see Lomachenko's trainer, Usyk's trainer, Crawford's trainer doing interview after interview, do we? We don't see Beterbeev's trainer, Biville's trainer. All these pound-for-pound superstars, we're not seeing their trainers every 2 minutes, are we?
No.
Why have we got to see all these other trainers? It's not about the trainers. It's about the fighters. All right? It's not about Billy Nelson. Billy Nelson today said they're going to take the Boots Ennis fight with Crocker. Because they're not going to put Crocker near that Donovan again. They get wiped out, won't they?
Yeah.
We don't see loads of interviews with Andy Lee. He keeps his son pretty quiet hard at way, doesn't he? We don't see Sugar Hill, who trains Tyson Fury, on IFL every 2 minutes or other channels, do we? It's not about the trainers. It's about the fighters. Let's have it right. We pay boxing pay-per-views and tickets to watch fighters. I don't want to hear about trainers chatting a load of shit. I want to see fighters, and I want to see fights made. That's what I want to see. If people need to speak on behalf of fighters, they go to trainers. They go to promoters. They go to the promoters. Let them talk and tell us what fights they're making for them. Don't want to see these managers like Sam Jones every 2 seconds doing interviews. Or Bombay Dave. Who are you training, Bombay Dave? Talk about who you're training. Let's hear about what. Let's hear about that. The promoters will talk about the fighters. We don't want to hear about reactions to these people. It's a load of knackers for the sake of it to get this ones out there. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I want to see fighters. I want to see that Crocker come out. I want to see Donovan come out. I want to see Huey Fury come out and do an interview. When's he out again? Who's he fighting? That's what I want to see. I don't want to see people speaking on behalf of fighters. I want to see the fighters coming out. That's what I want to see from now on. Pissed off with it now. Well, that Donovan has been shafted royally. He's been shafted it. Well, he has, hasn't he? You see,
yeah, he has, yeah.
You'll have been cheering for other kid because you're Northern Ireland, aren't you?
No, I was cheering for Donovan.
Oh, you snake, Jerry.
Well, Russ, that's why Northern Ireland, and well, that's not actually why I decided. I watched Crocker's fights.
I'm only joking. I didn't really mean that, Joe. No, I see where you're coming from, but I was cheering for the other kid, Donovan, because I don't like Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hill, I don't like him. But that other kid does tickets, doesn't it? That Crocker, he's the ticket seller, isn't he? But the other kid flogged him, didn't
Yeah, of
he? The
course.
other kid flogged him, and they're going to pull him up about, well, it was a punch after the bell. Crocker, as soon as you realise a minute after the bell, all bets were off. He didn't want to carry on. So
Yeah.
it is
I
what it
mean,
is. But what can
it,
you do?
if they were going to let that fight continue, Russ, it would have been over in a couple of minutes anyway, because the referee would have started the round. He would have called the doctor in and went, take a look at that eye. And Crocker's eye was shut in
Okay.
a few minutes.
You want to go on to part two, Jerry?
Yes, mate, no worries.
Here
See
on
you on
part
part two.
two. Please join us on part two. I'm going to roast people tonight. I'm not in mood for any of this nonsense tonight now because, but in my opinion, like it's all coming to an end, isn't it? This now, this boxing palaver. We're being led down the garden path, aren't we? By the powers that be. So people are not getting fights that they should be getting. People are being froze out because you're not in a little clique. Is Anthony Joshua training with Jonathan Banks? Well, we can't get Ben Davidson off of social media doing interview after interview after interview. But nobody's asking him about Lee Wood, are they? Or Anthony Joshua. So we've got silence, haven't we? Eh? Like I said, any other time we can't get them off social media. Right. Part two with Jezza. Women love him, men want to be him. I think it's his Magnum Tash that does it. Pop, pop, bang.